Hello, everyone, and welcome to the IHRM webinar series. My name is Maral Muradbekova, and I'm professor of HRM at ECP Business School in Paris campus. For those who attend this seminar, with this webinar, so for the first time, it is part of the IHRM webinar series, which began in 2020 during the COVID period. All recorded webinars are available on our YouTube channel, and we hope that they continue to be a useful resource, especially for those who can't always attend international conferences. For our regular attendees, thank you very much again for coming, and it's been a pleasure to see this series grow. So the webinar is co-organized by Len Farndale from Penn State University, Marion Festing and myself from ECP Business School, Mila Lazarova from Simon Fraser University, and Miguel Olivas from Clarion University of Pennsylvania. And we have a very important technical support from Cara Adrian from Penn State. So today's webinar is titled IHRM and Global Talent Management in Asia. And we are delighted to have Tomoki Sekiguchi, who is a professor at the Graduate School of Management, Kyoto University. His research focuses on advancing management studies by incorporating Asian and particularly Japanese concepts and perspectives. He previously served as co-editor-in-chief of Applied Psychology and International Review, and currently serves as senior associate editor of European Management Journal and associate editor of Asian Business and Management. His work has been published in leading journals, including Journal of International Business Studies, Journal of World Business, Journal of Management Studies, Academy of Learning and Education, Human Resource Management Review, Human Resource Management, and International Journal of HRM. So we don't have an open chat for the questions, but you can type your questions into the Q&A box. So we'll have around 10-15 minutes in the end, and Tomoki will reply to your questions that I will ask through this box. So let's begin the session. Thank you, Tomoki, again for being our guest. Please.
Thank you, Maral, for great introduction. So my name is Tomoki Sekiguchi from Kyoto University. Just a moment. So I'd like to discuss the international human resource management and the global talent management in Asia, focusing on how multinational enterprises are able to manage people effectively in Asia. So this presentation is based on the perspective paper co-authored with Professor Tamiko Kasahara of Waseda University, recently published in Asian Business Management. So this paper primarily discusses IHRM and GTM in Asia from a regional strategic perspective. So this is also the focus of today's presentation. If you are interested in my presentation today and would like to learn more about the content, please visit the journal website and download this open access article. So today's spotlight. So this presentation has 4 highlights. The first one is a strategic focus on Asia. We'd like to explore how focusing on Asia as an important strategic region for MNEs can not only deepen our understanding of how MNEs manage people in this region, but also offer insights beyond Asia, specifically the potential to bring about breakthroughs in the theory and practice of IHRM, GTM, and the global level. The second point is about the connection between regional strategy and HRM. So previous research on IHRM GTM based on the international business strategy has not paid much attention to regional strategic perspective, such as the relationship between regional integration and the local responsiveness. Therefore, in this presentation, I like to focus on how MNE's regional strategies related to their IHRM and GTM. The third point is to provide an integrated framework that aids to understanding and designing the practice of IHRM and GTM, which we called IHRM GTM architecture. So this framework illustrates the mechanism by which MNEs regional strategies lead to an optimal combination of international human resource management and global talent management. The fourth point is to discuss future research directions in order to advance IHRM and GTM research based on the content of framework presented in this presentation. So first, I'd like to talk about Asia as a strategic region for MNEs. So for many multinational enterprises, Asia is a critical strategic region in the global economy. So there are two main reasons for this. The first one is that Asia is a primary growth engine. So according to IMF, by the year 2030, Asia is projected to account for about half of the global GDP growth. Second, Asia is not a homogeneous entity. I define Asia broadly to include East, Southeast, South, Central, and West Asia. You can understand that Asia is complex mosaic of subregions. So they are characterized by deep and persistent internal diversity in institutional systems, cultures, and human capital profiles. So this heterogeneity creates unique coordination challenges in Asia and its subregions, as institutional legacies and institutional strengths vary significantly across Asian regions. So looking at the subregions, I only focus on East Asia, South Asia, and South Asia in this presentation. So East Asia, such as Japan, South Korea, China, and Taiwan, remains the world center for high value-added manufacturing and technology, including electronics, automobiles, semiconductors, and advanced machinery. So this region functions as an integrated production system where technology, services, and intermediate goods circulate repeatedly across borders. Southeast Asia, represented by ASEAN countries such as Thailand, Vietnam, Indonesia, exhibits a diverse and multi-layered development structures, combining labor-intensive manufacturing, natural resource industry, and service sectors. South Asia, led by India as well as Pakistan, Bangladesh, have distinguished by service-led growth, particularly in IT and business process outsourcing. So manufacturing is also expanding. When you look at the characteristics of human capital for each subregions, so in East Asia, so this region its leading economies has long maintained a steady supply of highly skilled technical workers, supported by well-established education and vocational training systems. However, because of the rapidly aging populations and the low birth rate, so labor supply is shrinking, putting downward pressure on future labor forces. So due to the shortage of young workers and needed to sustain business operations, a shift toward automation and knowledge integration has become essential. So Southeast Asia is characterized by young and growing workforce. Therefore, this region offers competitive labor costs combined with expanding digital skills. However, Southeast Asia is characterized by a diversity of regulations and systems, which makes it difficult to standardize HRM practices. For example, so Malaysia operates under a centralized labor government model, whereas Indonesia's system is decentralized and fragmented. Singapore is a hub in the international business and the cosmopolitan coordination platform. So compared, for example, with EU, Southeast Asia lacks strong supranational institutions to facilitate the free movement of skilled labor. So characteristics of South Asia is it provides one of the largest and the youngest labor forces. So this region has become crucial area for MNEs, offering a rich talent pool of engineers and managers. Also, the region is a primary driver of service and digital sector innovation. So India alone produces over 1 million engineers and IT graduates annually, supporting a global leadership in software, analytics, and business process services. However, a significant challenges in South Asia is a massive surplus of graduates alongside the persistent shortage of job-ready professionals due to the education industry mismatch. The labor dynamics of the region are heavily influenced by the sustained outflow of highly skilled professionals such as engineers and experts. So to summarize, the AGS human capital is structurally uneven baseline. So therefore, MNEs cannot rely on standardized global talent pipelines when foundational capabilities differ drastically by region. So next, I'd like to talk about the framework of international strategy and human resource management. So traditional international human resource management and global talent management research tend to be based on framework of global versus local dichotomy, such as global integration, local responsiveness, with the relationship between headquarters and overseas subsidiaries being the key to design an effective IHRM GTM practices. However, if we view Asia as a region facing challenges of diversity, the regional layer between the global and local cannot be ignored. In this regard, a regional integration and regional integration and local responsiveness are critically important in the practice of IHRM and GTM. So this regional perspective should come with regional strategies of multinational enterprises. So based on the observation so far, we propose the integrated framework linking multinational enterprise regional strategies to international HRM and global talent management. So this framework starts with the MNEs regional strategies, so which have different types. So each type of regional strategies has a different emphasis on regional integration and global responsiveness. So then, borrowing the idea of the region-centric staffing policy developed by Paul Mutter, the optimal combination of IHRM and GTM within the Asian region is developed through three core processes: translation, coordination, and calibration. So these processes are usually initiated by the regional coordinating unit, such as regional headquarters. Finally, the optimal combination of IHRM GTM is called the IHRM GTM architecture. So therefore, this framework explains how MNE's distinctive regional strategies result in the optimal IHRM GTM architecture through the three mechanisms initiated by regional coordinate units, such as regional headquarters. And these processes are influenced by Asians' contextual foundations, such as institutional heterogeneity, cultural pluralism, developmental asymmetry, and digital connectivity. We hope that this framework helps understand how MNE can develop effective people and talent portfolio to implement regional strategy, especially in Asia. So let's look at the regional strategy. So I use a Gemawatt regional strategy framework as a typology. Please note that this is not the only one typology of the regional perspective. So according to Gemawatt, the regional strategy types suggest that based on the purpose of business and the international operation, MNEs pursue different regional strategies. The first one is a home-based strategy. So this strategy concentrates core activities in a home country, where serving foreign markets primarily through exports and limited local operations. Perhaps a minimum regional integration is required. The regional hub strategy centralizes coordination and key functions in a single regional location, such as Singapore. The platform strategy replicates similar operations across multiple countries within a region to achieve regional scale. For example, some Japanese car makers use ASEAN countries as a regional production platform. The mandate strategy grants selected subsidiaries regional or global responsibility for specific functions or capabilities, such as R&D mandate for Bangalore office and marketing mandate for Shanghai office. Finally, the portfolio strategy consists of relatively autonomous country operations coordinated at the regional level. So importantly, these regional strategies may differ systematically in the balance between regional integration and the global responsiveness, as well as the scope and composition of the people and talent portfolios required to implement them. So in terms of the international human resource management and global talent management, we assume that these two are different. Although there are many different definitions of the scope of IHRM and GDM, we position the logic of IHRM as inclusive of all employees in foreign subsidiaries and structurally oriented toward local responsiveness or adjustment to the local context. So it governs the entire employees based on and must secure international institutional legitimacy, legal compliance, and the cultural fit within its specific home country context. On the other hand, we position the logic of GTM as exclusive to high potential and high performing employees and oriented toward regional or global integration. It's focusing on identifying, comparing, and deploying strategically selected subset of high potential individuals whose value is realized through cross-border mobility. In the Asian context, so deep institutional heterogeneity simultaneously identifies the pressure for local IHRM legitimacy while highlighting the strategic need for regional talent integration. To resolve this, we move beyond Perlmutter's ethnocentric and polycentric models toward a regiocentric staffing orientation. So, so let's look at the role of regional headquarters, lead subsidiaries, or regional teams. So our framework suggests that the regional coordinating units, such as regional headquarters, lead subsidiaries, or regional teams, can play a critical role in implementing regional strategies and the effective uh, structuring of IHRM, GTM architecture, especially in Asia, with heterogeneous institutional culture environment. So, regional headquarters are no longer just administrative intermediaries. So they are information bridges, talent calculators that connect between regional strategy and IHRM, GTM. So this function has three different processes: translation, coordination, and calibration. So regional actors not merely just implement top-down mandate, they generate like a bottom-up feedback that can redirect the firm's entire regional strategic trajectory. So this is basically the bi-directional mechanism where the regional headquarters try to implement the regional strategies from top-down perspective and then get some feedback from the local context. So these processes create the optimal balance between regional integration and local responsiveness and the resultant IHRM GTM architecture. So translation is the process of reinterpreting headquarter-oriented practices such as HRM practices and the time criteria with the diverse national context. And in Asia, where the cultural characteristics are quite diverse, such as that include Confucian, Indic, Islamic, the translation is quite important in order to successfully implement the practices initiated by global headquarters to local context. So coordination involves linking fragmented country HR practices into orchestrated region-wide talent management. And we also call it as a farm-centered mobility infrastructure. Because Asia lacks a strong supranational governance found like in the EU, multinational enterprise must internalize the cost of mobility. So they built farm-centered mobility infrastructures, internalized system of short-term assignment, regional rotations, or bypassing fragmented visa regime and weak regional rules. So calibration is the regional level process of interpreting and aligning locally generated signals, such as performance evaluation, leadership assessment, to make them comparable across organizational units. So it is a process of rendering talent-related signals comparable across diverse subsidiaries. So because Asia shows a high level of heterogeneity of the regulation, institution, educational systems, and the resultant human capital, and also the talent paradox, MNE cannot simply acquire or buy talent from labor market. So they must build their people and talent portfolio through a dual layer architecture. So in this architecture, so layer one represents the mass capability building, which is mainly initiated by international human resource management practices. So this involves broad-based foundational training, like analytical skills, ICT literacy, and collaborative work to raise the baseline capacity or capability across the regional workforce. So this is inclusive and addresses the uneven skill formation systems found in Asian economies. So layer two is about selecting elite and develop them through mainly by global talent management. So this focuses on fast tracking high potential individuals into regional or global career path. It is an exclusive logic designed to secure the mobile elite who can navigate regions' complexity. So based on the discussion so far and the framework I propose, we'd like to discuss the future research directions in order to advance the field of international human resource management and global talent management, not only in an Asian context, but also in a global scale. So there are five different directions I propose. The first one is regional integration mechanism. The second one is a dual layer architecture. Third one is a process microdynamics. The fourth one is farm-driven mobility. And the fifth one is geopolitics and the visa regimes. So basically, we want to propose that in order to build a resilient, high-performing workforce across Asia's dynamic landscape, the research must move beyond the traditional headquarter subsidiary diet and then look deeper into the regional governance and regional integration local responsiveness, tension. So the first research direction is about the regional integration mechanism. So we like to argue that the future studies should move beyond the HQ subsidiary diet and try to set region as the unit of analysis. So that is, the research should explore the complex tension between global integration and regional responsiveness, as well as the tension between regional integration and global local responsiveness within a specific region. In particular, it is necessary to examine how different regional strategies necessitate distinct IHRM, GTM architecture. Also, it is also encouraged to investigate how regional talent portfolio and the coordination processes co-evolve, and which specific HR activities are recognized versus globalized within a firm. Sorry, which specific HR activities are regionalized or globalized within a firm. So, key question in this research direction is, how do different regional strategies shape IHRM GTM architectures to balance global, regional, and local tensions? The second research direction is about the examination of a generalizability of dual layer architecture. So our review identifies the distinctive dual layer development model in Asia, combining broad-based capability building through IHRM with selective elite development through GTM. So future research should investigate if this dual layer structure is unique to Asia or generalizable to other emerging regions with similar institutional traits, such as Eastern Europe, Latin America, or Middle East. Because these emerging regions has also like heterogeneous environment in terms of institution and human capital characteristics, educational system, culture, and so on. Also, there is a need to theorize how national institutional arrangement and the farm level strategies jointly define the boundary between inclusive HRM and exclusive GVM. So the question is whether the dual layer structure persists or there might be more blurring boundary between GTM and IHRM. So the key question is like, is Asia's dual layer model applicable to other emerging regions with high institutional heterogeneity, like Latin America or Eastern Europe? The third research direction is about the process analysis of translation, coordination, and calibration. So while these three processes are core to regional governance, their micro processes are still under sterilized. Therefore, a research should examine how regional headquarters, lead subsidiaries, or regional teams divide, compete, or complement each other to perform these functions. Also, studies should delve into how translation ensures local legitimacy, how coordination links fragmented unit, and how calibration transforms heterogeneous performance signals into comparable criteria for regional decisions. So the key question here is, how do regional units use translation, coordination, and calibration to transform local diversity into regional people and talent signals? So the fourth research direction is looking at the mobility and the weak regional governance. So as I discussed earlier, the Asia has quite heterogeneous and weak supranational institution to allow skilled workers to move across the countries. So when you look at the EU, for example, so EU has a kind of strong institution for labor mobility, but in Asia, it is not. So it is quite challenging for people to move across countries. So labor mobility should be initiated by multinational enterprise, and they should build their own firm-centered mobility infrastructures in order to promote the mobility of the talent to integrate regional operations. So future studies should examine how firms govern internal mobility, like short-term assignment, long-term assignment, expatriation, repatriation, regional rotations, and how this shapes leadership development and organizational learning in an Asian region. Scholars should also investigate how digitalization and AI enable hybrid form of mobility, allowing regional talent orchestration without physical relocation or strong supranational support. So the key question here is how do MNEs build internal mobility infrastructures without supranational support, and how is digitalization shape the talent mobility flow? So finally, the fifth research direction is considering geopolitical risk and the visa regime transformation. So recent shift toward deglobalization and the state control of labor mobility represent significant boundary conditions for regional talent governance. For example, research should examine the impact of new STEM-oriented visa schemes like Singapore's TechPass, Japan's JSKIP, on regional talent competition and innovation capacity. It is also vital to understand how MNEs reconfigure globally oriented GTM systems into regiocentric architectures in response to geopolitical shocks and institutional uncertainty. So key question is how do geopolitical shocks and new state-led visa schemes force MNEs to shift from global to region-centric GTM? Okay, so in order to promote the future research, we should also consider methodology. So to advance the field of IHRM, GTM in Asia by addressing the future research directions I discussed, several research methods should be utilized, such as multi-level designs and sub-regional comparative studies and longitudinal studies. So these methodology, especially high cutting edge methodology, can give us the good research design and explore the fine-grained data, and also not only the statistical things, but also looking at more qualitative characteristics of the IHRM GTM in Asian region might provide us with insights about better understanding of these regions. So, as a conclusion, my presentation today has focused on Asia. So this region is no longer just merely a testing ground for empirically validating Western frameworks. So given the highly diverse institutional structures, scale, and dynamism in the digital era, Asia has become a pivotal starting point for theories of international human resource management and global talent management over the next decades. So I hope that today's presentation, which covers a broader context of Asia, an integrated framework, and the future research directions, has provided you with the new insights into how to advance the field of international HRM and global talent management in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tomoki. I don't see. Okay, that's fine. You have the voice over.
Okay.
Thank you very much. It was
Yeah,
very interesting, and the heterogeneity is indeed very, very large. I mean, very impressive in all dynamics. So my first question would be, do we have something in common in Asia?
that's a good question. Um, so Asia has something in common in terms of the maybe the culture or institutions. I don't know, but it's quite difficult to answer. What do you think?
Yeah, because yeah, we say Asia, okay. Because if you add also the Central Asia, which
Yeah.
I'm I mean, I'm from Kazakhstan originally, then it becomes even more heterogeneous. So
Hmm.
what's the in common? Yeah, there is some cultural fits, I suppose.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
because there is a word Asia, so that there has to be some commonalities in a region.
Mm,
It's
okay.
it's definitely different from West or Middle East or something.
Yeah. Thank you. We have a question from Raccoon. For starting shifts in mobility due to geopolitical shocks,
Mm,
do you think we can find inspirations from the supply chain research on
mm,
reshoring and nearshoring?
mm.
A
That's
difficult question. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's a great insight. So I also was thinking about how HRM, especially international HRM research, can collaborate with other areas such as global strategy and also the supply chain management or global value chain. And the political geopolitical issues might always related to like supply chain. And if you look at the actual practices and the practitioners, so they are always considering how to respond to geopolitical shocks in terms of to protect their supply chain or value chain. So the research on IHRM DTM should also be linked to this perspective and how the the changes in supply chain systems or the response to supply chain crisis might really linked to the mobility of the talents and also the focus on the HRM in specific regions or shift from the certain regions to others based on that. I think it's a great research directions that we can consider.
Yeah, I also agree with you, actually. Thank you. And anyway, I think interdisciplinary research and adding the insights from other fields would be only enriching anyway. And you can also find something interesting. We have a question from Ishuo, if I pronounce it correctly. Thank you for the very insightful presentation. In your view, how can regional headquarters balance the need for regional consistency with the need to remain sensitive to very different local institutional contexts across Asia?
Can you repeat the question again? I couldn't understand
So
not
how
that part.
can regional headquarters,
Hmm.
do you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
How can regional headquarters balance the need for regional consistency with the
Mm,
need to remain very sensitive to very
mm, mm.
different local institutional contexts?
Yeah, this is a core question that I wanted to propose because the traditional global strategy or international business only focusing on the global integration, the local responsiveness. tension. So of course, there's a tension between global and local, but there's also the tension between region and local. So regional headquarters might be something similar to the role of global headquarters to manage global integration, local responsiveness. So regional headquarters might have to balance between a regional governance and regional integration. And then they also have to look closely to each countries, and then, try to um, navigate these tensions to make it better combination of IHRM and GTM.
Thank you. The question from Dora Yahiaoui, if I pronounce again correctly. Thank you for this excellent project. What will be your empirical study target? Various MNCs from different Asian countries?
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
in
I
my
lost the question. Sorry, it disappeared somehow. I don't know why. It was there and now it's not there anymore. Anyway, I mean, you mentioned the methodological
yeah
differences in to respond to different questions that uh, you address. So,
yeah I'm currently doing some collaboration with the companies in Japan. And so
Japanese,
they're
Japanese,
Japanese companies, multinational
any
companies. Yeah,
multinational,
so
okay.
they are really interested in how to improve the global talent management and local responsiveness in Asia region. So the one possible study is how certain MNEs from the certain countries like Japanese companies manage the Asian region in terms of HRM and GTM, and how they are different from the MNEs from different countries, such as like US firms, European
Mhm.
firms, or even like Chinese firms. So these are, I think, quite important comparative study to gain insight about the kind of how to manage people in Asian kind of region.
Okay, so it's a cross countries comparison
Yes, yes,
anyway, and the multinationals from different countries, from West and Asian countries as well,
yeah,
but in your case, it's Japanese.
yes.
Okay. From Martin, the question is, thanks, Higuchi-sensei, for the paper and for the presentation. So one takeaway for me is that the major difference between IHRM and GTM is well understood. Yeah, global talent management is a part of IHRM. Question, in this study, does the emphasis on the missing middle reflect a rising role of the regional integration nowadays? A very
I think
straight.
so. Yeah, I think so. Because of the geopolitical issues and maybe decades ago, so they are always talking about globalization and borderless or something. But so recently we have to consider like nationalism, deglobalization, or something. So for multinational enterprises, they also have to consider risk of globalizing. So in order to manage risk and reduce risk of geopolitical issues, maybe the looking at a region as a target or semi-globalization might be another direction that companies should pursue. So these should be considered in doing research on HRM and talent management.
Thank you. And then now it's a very practical question, which I'm also interested in the response. So from anonymous attendee, Given the context you provided, what are the one or three specific tips, like very tangible ones, you would give to HR professionals working
Mm,
in the region for
mm.
practical actions to improve HR and or business operations?
Oh, that's quite important question. And also, the future research can provide more better answers for these practitioners. That's the purpose of doing research. But at this point, I would say that the HR professionals have to think both regional integration or local responsiveness and do not just focus on either. So I think both end thinking might be quite important, even though they are kind of contradictory, they are tension, but the practitioner should understand. So these tensions are quite important and have to manage. And then uh, looking at each side, okay, how to implement the regional integration strategy by creating better global talent management systems, so on. At the same time, they also have to pay close attention to local environment and then see how each subsidiaries can secure good employees, develop good employees, and then raise the bottom of the foundational capacity. So I think looking at both sides and then try to pursue both is quite important practically to
Yeah,
manage.
I mean, it's a kind of like a philosophy of what you are proposing. But do
Mm.
you have from your research, empirical research, do you have like really practical advice? I am an HR,
Okay,
now
okay.
I'm there. So what can I like do?
Perhaps I think classification of talent and employees is the first step because if you look at each subsidiaries, there might be different type of employees. So some are really regional or maybe the local, some are really uh, kind of mobile employees, and some are coming from headquarters, some are coming from third countries. So I think the classification of the employees and then consider how the companies can create better portfolio of the employees is, I think, important.
Okay,
So
thank you.
in our like recent research published in JIPS, so we no not JIPS in journal management studies, we actually tried to reclassify or re conceptualize the different kind of talent because in the past, in IHRM study only classify talent or people like host country national, like parent country national, third country national, but we think it is too coarse and too rough. And then more sophisticated classification might practically important to manage portfolio, how each subsidiaries in each region set some goals of the ideal talent portfolio, people portfolio. So I think that's one thing we can offer from the research result.
Okay, thank you. And again, from your empirical research, so there is a questions about despite the known heterogeneity, North American multinationals tend to treat the local context as homogeneous, finding ways to eliminate differences. So is this something that you observe in the operations in Asia?
It's also difficult to answer, but I don't think the Asian regions are kind of converging to just very simple or plain characteristics. So the Asian regions still continue to be very heterogeneous, and it is quite challenging. to manage people using very standardized HR practices, like I think in the US something. Yeah.
So you do observe this then, that they
Um,
tend to.
based on, yeah, it's based on like a literature or some things. It's not really my own empirical
Okay.
study. Yes.
Okay. So the call for empirical studies is very important here. So please,
Oh, yeah, yeah. So that's
attendees,
the
yeah,
purpose. Yeah, that's the
please do.
purpose of today's
Okay.
presentation.
Tomoki, you wanted also to announce your conference. Do you want to take
Oh,
a
thank
minute
you.
to do this in Kyoto in September?
Yes, if you look at the chat box, or I think there's
Yes, Kara just posted it. So
information.
we
Okay,
see now that
yes.
Kyoto Global. Yeah.
So I'm currently organizing Kyoto Global HR Challenge Conferences, which is held in September 3rd, 2026. So this is our first attempt to create the environment where the HR scholars, also the HR practitioners, get together and interact to give more meaningful discussion about the research that really contribute to the practice. And it is also the great opportunity for the people in the world to come to Japan and interact with the HR practitioners in Japanese companies. So if you are interested in submitting the posters, so we welcome the submission. So if you're not submitting poster, but just come to this conference, I also welcome them. So please
Yeah.
look at
Thank you. I think it's a,
some.
yeah.
Yes, thank you very much.
Great
Yeah,
opportunity to meet together to see not only researchers who do their studies in Asia, but all over the world to meet together in Kyoto on September, sorry,
yeah,
3. And you see in the chat the practicalities, the
mm,
email where to send your posters or not, and the registration deadlines and everything like this. So Tomoki, thank you very, very much again. And we have also thanks for participants in the Q&A box for your great presentation. I just wanted to thank once more all the attendees today and to announce the next one. The webinar would be on April 23 with Kate Hutchings, Miriam Muller, and Son Min To. The title is The Many Faces Working Globally, What We Already Know About Minority Expatriates and Future Research Priorities. So the timing will be again very similar to this one today, which is not our usual time, but you're very welcome to come. We will be very happy to see you. So a big thank you, Tomoki, once more, and
thank you
to
very
the
much.
organizing team and Kara for your technical support. And we hope to see you at our next session. Thank you and bye bye.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.